Hello gardener, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm sharing all of my tips as a professional seed and plant nursery on how to sow seeds for tomatoes and get them to grow into nice big healthy transplants. Tomatoes are my absolute favorite veggie crop to grow. I love to can tomato sauce, bruschetta, salsas, and dehydrate them. They have so many uses in the kitchen, so I grow tons of them, on average at least 50 different varieties every fall and spring season. So I have a lot of tomato growing tips and tricks to share with you. Today we are focusing on the very first step to growing tomatoes, and that's sowing them from seed. If you're new here, hello and welcome. My name is Jara and I teach others how to garden and grow food. This video is one of many garden guides that can be found on my channel where I share my knowledge about growing food and other edible plants. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my garden tutorials. And lastly, if you want to grow the very same tomatoes that I grow in my garden, go check out my website because I probably have seeds or plants for them. All right, let's get into growing tomatoes from seed. The first thing we need to figure out is timing. When should you start sowing seeds for tomatoes? General guidelines that work for everyone, no matter what garden zone you're in, is to sow seeds 8 to 12 weeks before your last spring frost date. Using my garden as an example, my last spring frost date is the second week of February, so I start seeds in the middle of December to give them 12 weeks of growing time. And then there are gardeners in warm winter climates that can also grow tomatoes over the winter, like me here in Florida. It doesn't get cold enough to kill my plants, so I plant 2 times a year, at the end of January and again the very first weekend of September or Labor Day weekend. I say it takes 8 to 12 weeks of growing time because it depends on growing conditions. If the conditions are ideal, they will grow faster and be ready at 8 weeks. If conditions are less than ideal, then it takes longer. For the majority of us that are home backyard gardeners, conditions are probably not ideal. So realistically expect 8 to 12 weeks. You could plant the seedling at any stage, really small or big, but the smaller it is, the more susceptible it will be to the elements and pests. So it increases the risk that the seedling won't survive. Larger seedlings can handle more weather or pest related issues before it finally takes them out. Furthermore, when you plant tomato seedlings into the garden, it is customary to bury at least half of the stem. This is a technique to get larger root system size with tomato plants because wherever the soil comes in contact with the stem, it causes roots to grow. Knowing that I will bury half of the seedling in the ground, I like for my plants to be at least 10 inches or taller since I'm losing half of that height. That is the reasoning behind why I say expect an 8 to 12 week growing period. Okay, so you have your target date to start them from seed. Let's discuss the sowing process. The seed sowing technique for tomatoes comes down to 4 things. 1, soil. 2, warmth. 3, light. And 4, fertilizer. If you can master these 4 things, you're going to grow the best tomato seedlings ever. First up, let's talk about soil. Ideally, when sowing seeds, you want a growing medium that is soilless, which means it is sterile and shouldn't be inoculated with pathogens that can grow and kill your seedlings. And it should also be fluffy, so that way the roots can grow easily. Look for seed starting mix at the store or make your own with this recipe right here. It's basically equal parts peat moss or cocoa coir with equal parts perlite or vermiculite, and then throw in some worm castings if you want. The peat moss and cocoa coir is the soilless growth medium, and the perlite or vermiculite just keeps it fluffy. You can substitute whatever ingredients you would like as long as they accomplish the same thing. These ingredients are pretty easy to find at the store. If you're sowing a lot of seeds, it's more economical to make your own than to buy pre-made seed starting mix. I just mix a big batch in a wheelbarrow. Now let's say you want to use soil from your backyard or even compost. It is inoculated with tons of pathogens, so you're not going to get the best germination and will probably have a high incidence of seedling death. If it's the only option you have, then please don't let that stop you from using it. Just seed way more than you need to make up for the potentially high amount of seedling loss. The second requirement for optimal tomato seedling growth is warmth. This is a warm season crop. If seedlings are exposed to cold temperatures, they will get stunted in growth, stay super tiny, and they might not ever recover from that, even if placed in a warm area later on. So remember that target date for you to start your tomato seeds? Well, is it cold outside during that time? Most likely 12 weeks before your last spring frost date is winter time and still cold. So you will need to sow tomato seeds indoors or fashion some kind of a setup to keep them warm outside. I can't tell you how many times I thought they'll be fine growing outside because I live in Florida and we have very mild winters. Well, no. If temperatures drop below 60 degrees Fahrenheit, they really start to struggle and they don't grow as fast. Also, if the soil is cold, the seeds won't germinate. So get creative with figuring out how to keep them warm. Think about creating a greenhouse type of environment. I get mini greenhouses from Amazon and put a few heat mats at the bottom. It's enough to keep the entire greenhouse warm until toasty even on the coldest nights of winter. You can put the seedlings in a plastic storage tote container and put a heat mat in there. There are so many ways to do this, just keep them warm. I'll put links in the description below to the same greenhouse, heat mats, and other supplies that I use. When I sow tomato seeds in a warm environment, I usually get germination in 3 days or less, and the seedlings grow very rapidly. Usually they're ready to transplant at about 8 weeks instead of 12. The third requirement is light. And I'm not talking about a little bit of filtered light from a window. Again, tomatoes are a warm season crop that grow best in 8 hours of full sun or more. The average household window is not going to provide 8 hours of full sun, most likely. None of mine do, and I'm located in the sunshine state. A classic sign that they are not getting enough light is if the seedling is reaching in an obvious direction towards the sun or other light source. The stem gets elongated while trying to reach, which causes odd growth patterns and weak stems that easily break. Weak transplants make for weak garden plants. As soon as any seed germinates, it needs light to photosynthesize and grow. Again, you can use many things to provide ample lights to plants. When shopping around, focus on light that is 5,000 kelvins or higher for the daylight range, and the higher the wattage, the better. I have successfully grown all of my veggies using shop lights. Now I have acquired a few actual grow lights. These right here are Mars Hydro 3x3 150 watt grow lights. I borrowed one from a friend to test out what kind of a difference it makes compared to my shop lights, and wow, I could actually tell there was a difference. For one, the light intensity is way stronger than the shop lights, and it provides a wider range of light color that helps plants grow. I noticed that my tomato seedlings grow under these grow lights have much thicker stems, the leaves are longer, and just overall bigger. I was impressed, so I have slowly purchased a few more Mars Hydro lights to at least have enough for my warm weather crops. But is it necessary? No. You can grow good tomato seedlings using shop lights. I will be planting these thicker tomato seedlings in a few weeks, so it will be interesting to see the vigor of the plants and if they end up producing more long term than the ones I grow with shop lights. I'll definitely let you all know how that goes at the end of my tomato season. The last requirement is fertilizer. Please fertilize your seedlings. It will speed up their growth and just in general produce healthier seedlings. Choose a balanced liquid fertilizer of your choice. It has to be liquid so the nutrients are bioavailable immediately. Granular stuff takes time to break down and those nutrients won't be immediately available to the seedlings. I really like Fox Farms Grow Big, but you can use whatever. Agro Thrive, Super Thrive, Miracle Grow, whatever you want. If the fertilizer packaging doesn't have specific instructions for fertilizing seedlings, like this Grow Big says for seedlings, then mix it at half strength of whatever the directions say. If Miracle Grow says mix 1 scoop per gallon, you would mix half a scoop per gallon. Fertilizing at full strength can burn or kill your seedlings. They just can't handle that yet. Start fertilizing about once a week once the first set of true leaves appears. When something germinates, the very first 2 set of leaves are called cotyledons. They look kind of round and flat. They do not look like mature tomato plant leaves. This is something quick the seedling just throws out to begin photosynthesis. The next set of leaves are called true leaves because that now resembles a tomato plant leaf. This is a couple rows of my heirloom tomatoes that I planted the very first weekend of September. So they're like 4.5 months old by this point. They don't look that great because, well, it's been kind of cold. We've been getting weather in the 40s, and that's not enough to kill them, but it definitely slows them down and causes, you know, certain diseases and stuff to spread. I wanted to harvest this one for you guys today, though, because it's so big. This one is called Fiorali. It's an Italian heirloom tomato that is grown in the area of Fiorali, if I'm saying that correctly, in Italy. And look at that, it's huge. This one's really good for like sauce making because it is so meaty and it doesn't have a lot of seeds. And I definitely have seeds for this one on my website if you want to try growing it. While the majority of the country is covered in snow or at least experiencing freezing temperatures, I'm out here harvesting my tomatoes. I wanted to show you guys another tomato that I'm growing. This is Everglades tomato. This whole thing, all the way here. Once you have them growing in your garden, they reseed everywhere. I really like to plant it underneath my fruit trees or unused spaces in my garden so it can ramble and get thick like this. It doesn't let any weeds grow through. So yeah, if you haven't tried growing this yet, give it a try. You're gonna be very impressed. And if you're in Florida and you haven't tried growing this, where have you been? Growing from seed really opens up the world of possibilities because there are thousands of tomato cultivars to choose from, each with their own unique flavor and uses. I hope these tomato seed sowing tips will help you be successful growing your own seedlings. If you have any tips or tricks that have helped you grow healthy tomato seedlings from seed, please comment below and share your knowledge. Check out my website for details on some of my absolute favorite varieties that are a must grow every season. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give me a big thumbs up. That helps my channel out more than you know. Happy gardening, and I'll see you in the next video.